Happy Halloween, everybody. It's Ixie. Today I'm analyzing the Stranger Things opening sequence. It's in the key of E minor. The bass line alternates between C, E, D, and G. It's basically variations of those notes. What are those chords? It's 4/4, which means there are 4 quarter notes per measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm just going to take you through this song. So it starts out with a very quick arpeggio, either just really fast, or it's way faster than I can play it. Can't tell. That little arpeggio is just sort of this like sparkly, mystical entrance. The main melody is an arpeggiated C major 7 chord. It doesn't go, it goes up to the C, an octave above, which sort of emphasizes that root note. The chord progression does start with C major, which is a flat 6. At first, this sounds really harmonious. But then it goes to E. Your ear is probably expecting that they will change one note in the arpeggio so that it fits in with this new chord that you're playing. The C does not fit in that chord. What? Your brain unconsciously wants this note to resolve down to B. You can keep the C up here because it's just a passing sort of dissonant note that resolves. But to keep the C here creates this sort of uncomfortable 6th. It's not super unpleasant. It's not like, but it doesn't feel comfortable. But they don't want you to feel comfortable. I love that choice. They could have so easily just been like, oh yeah, and then, yeah. They actually don't do the same chord progression for the entire piece. It's mainly C and E, but there are some sort of passing chords that I think really add something. One of them is going to be D major. You want this to go up. It's like, we're going. Yes. And at one point they go, ooh, that is satisfying. Functionally, it's serving as like a 5-1 to the C, which is where we're going. I also want to talk really quickly about this heartbeat. That is a huge part of the song. It would still be cool without it, but having this sort of thud going the whole time, in some ways it's obvious, right? Why that affects us. Hearing a heartbeat, hearing that kind of pulse, it activates our nervous system, I think. It's like, oh my gosh, like, is something happening? And it's faster than a normal, 70 beats per minute that the human heart tends to go, but it's like a slightly elevated heartbeat. So a heartbeat is sort of this like quick. They could have shifted the rhythm so that the first beat literally comes before the beginning of the measure. This is the heart. A 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. And that would have been really cool too. I think that's more common to do that. The first beat would be what's called a pickup. It's like the beat right before the beginning. So the emphasis is on the second beat. But instead the emphasis, it's more on the first beat because they go 1E, 2E, 3E, 4E. Why that's interesting? Well, having this sort of the second beat come right off of the downbeat like that, it makes you feel a little bit suspended. To me, there are a couple other ways that they throw you off. So from the outset, we have this with C in the bass line. We don't know yet actually what key this is in just from hearing that one chord. It could be in C major, and they're just playing this C major 7 chord. 4 full measures of this C being in the bass line. That's actually a lot. So it's not moving anywhere. You're just here. Unconsciously, you might actually want it to resolve up to E minor. You might not know why, but the fact that they just stay down here for so long, oh, maybe that's just the tonal center. Maybe it is just C major. And then the second phrase starts and it's still C. And you're just like, okay, I guess we're here. When you get to measure 3, it finally changes. So they delay your gratification, essentially. I remember feeling that when I first heard it. I was like, I feel like I'm hanging. Are they going to do it? That experience creates tension. You might just think, oh, it's just music. Well, your nervous system is reacting. Your expectations affect everything. So you're anticipating. They fool you another way with a cadence that you're not used to hearing. And at the same time, the heartbeat percussion just falls away. And it does kind of feel like, did my heart just stop? It's been there since it started, and heartbeats aren't supposed to stop. You're like, I know where this is going. Right? So they go. That sounds kind of dark, descending bass line. And what they're landing on is 5, and 5 wants to resolve back up to the tonic. But they've played with us so much, I remember feeling like they're just gonna leave us there. And that's how it's gonna end. And because the heartbeat falls away, at that moment, it does feel like the end. So you're like, and then it does resolve, finally. But they keep you here for a little while, longer than you'd like. And things starts to kind of pick back up a little bit. And you get some swelly chords, some variation of this C major 7 building, but you still think it's going to be 4 measures. That's what they've done so far. That's what all popular music does. You're set up for it. So when you think the phrase is about to start over, they're not done with you yet. So it's still building. Again, that's another feeling of suspension and anticipation. It's sort of like when you're at a club and you're dancing and the music is like building and building. And you're like, oh man, the beat's going to drop. And you like stomp when you think it's going to drop, but the musician is playing a trick on you and they wait another measure and you're left sitting there like, ah. That's what they're doing. Another way that they throw you off is at the very end. So after the build up, the phrase starts over. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 1, meaning the very last measure of the phrase is cut in half. So that is the opposite of what you've been experiencing, where you've been like waiting for something to happen and it's happening later. This is, I know what's going on, I know what's going on. Whoa, what did you just do? Right before they cut that measure in half, the arpeggio has gotten very quiet to the point where I'm not actually sure if you can hear it at all. So it swells back in right before they cut the measure in half. And the heartbeat changes to halftime, not the actual beats, but how often they're happening. So before, it's on every beat. And then when this phrase starts over prematurely, it goes to, which is brilliant, right? You tell me how that makes you feel. Definitely has an effect on me. It might even just feel like your heart is skipping a beat because you're so petrified. A couple other things to note. There are a couple moments where you get a more textured synth that just goes. Every time that happens, I want it to go up. Probably because they've got me so used to the 7 chord. That would be the most logical thing to expect, given that they are just going. Which doesn't come in on 1, by the way. Comes in on B2. That's it. They do twice. Now there's a little bit of an echo to this cadence. There's a kind of a sweet sounding synth that comes in near the end, right before the heartbeat drops to half time. Right? But they resolve it down there for you. One cool thing I will say about the analog synths that they were talking about in their interview, you can modify the frequencies any way you want. You're not relegated to the frequencies that are on the keyboard. In other words, you can play semi tones. There are so many notes that are in between even the closest keys on this keyboard. And that's part of the nostalgia, but I also think that is part of what makes it feel kind of freaky. Like culturally, we're not really used to that. We're used to these kinds of tunings, and to have things tuned sort of in between and like changing is just like, it gives that unsettling feeling. All right, everyone, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this scary musical analysis. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it and leave a comment. I would just love to know how all of these interesting things they're doing affect you as a listener. Maybe watch Stranger Things again and listen to the music the entire time, because they did the soundtrack for the whole film and it's so good. See you next time.